the person who taught you how to pray is the same one who taught you how to suffer in silence and call it love. I knew a family. From the outside, they were the kind of family you envied at church, matching outfits on Easter, always sitting together, always laughing. The mother was warm to everyone, the father was respected, the children were polite. Perfect, just absolutely perfect. And then the eldest daughter turned 40, and at her birthday dinner, right there between the rice and the cake, she looked at her mother and said, very quietly, "You knew. You always knew what he was doing to me, and you said nothing." The table went completely still. Nobody moved. Nobody asked what she meant, because everybody already knew what she meant. They had always known. They just had an unspoken agreement to never, ever say it out loud. That family looked like love. It was a performance, and the audience was so committed to the show that even the victim had spent 30 years wondering if maybe she was the problem. Welcome to Diary After 50, where we say the things that have been living rent-free in your chest for years. I am Gloria, and I do not come here to make you comfortable. I come here to make you honest. If this is the kind of content that finally feels like someone is speaking your language, subscribe. Right now, not at the end, now. Because what I am about to get into is not going to be the kind of thing you want to hear once and forget. It is the kind of thing you are going to want to sit with. Here is the thing nobody wants to say on Sunday dinner. The closer someone is to you, the more access they have. And the more access they have, the more damage they can do. Not because they are monsters, but because they know you. They know what you need. They know what you are afraid of. They know the exact sentence to say that will make you feel like the smallest version of yourself. And they learned all of that by being loved by you. Strangers cannot break you the way family can. A stranger does not know that your confidence is fragile at the root. A stranger does not know that you have been waiting your whole life for someone to say you are enough. A stranger cannot look you in the face and say something that sounds like concern, but is actually a knife. Family can. Family does. And here's the part that will sit with you. The damage from family does not always feel like damage at the time. It feels like normal. It feels like that is just how life is. That is just how things are. You do not identify the wound until you are somewhere quiet, usually alone, usually much later in life, and you think about why you are the way you are, why you flinch at certain words, why you cannot receive a compliment without immediately discounting it, why you learned to be small. And the answer is almost always someone who loved you first. Stay with me, because this is where it gets specific. Nobody in your family woke up and said, "Today I am going to damage this child permanently." That is not how it works. It works like water erosion, slow, consistent, patient. You do not notice the rock is changing until the shape is completely gone. The first pattern is conditional love, love that comes with requirements, love that is warm when you perform well and cold when you disappoint. The child in that house spends their whole life shape-shifting to stay on the warm side of the parent's mood. They become incredible at reading the room. They become terrible at trusting peace, because peace always felt like it was about to end. I had a woman confide in me once. She told me she was 58 years old, and she still had a physical reaction when her phone rang and it was her mother's name on the screen. Not excitement, not warmth, a tightening in her chest, like her whole body was still waiting for the verdict. She was 58. Her body never got the memo that she was an adult now. The second pattern is the one nobody in the family ever talks about, the sibling who decided to become the favorite by making sure you stayed the problem, the one who reported your mistakes, exaggerated your flaws, quietly reminded the parents of every time you fell short, not out of honesty, out of strategy, out of survival. And you spent years wondering why your parents saw you the way they did, not realizing there was someone very close to you who had an interest in you staying small. This is not always dramatic or deliberate. Sometimes it's just someone protecting their own position, but the effect on you is the same. It rewires how you see yourself in every room you walk into for the rest of your life. And then there's the third one, the hardest to name, the family secret that everyone keeps, the thing that happened that nobody discusses, but that permanently changed the shape of the household. Maybe it was something one parent did to the other. Maybe it was something done to a child. Maybe it was financial. Maybe it was something else entirely. But the family closed ranks. They decided collectively, without ever having a meeting about it, that this thing would be carried in silence. And every person in that family learned in that moment that the appearance of family was more important than the truth inside it. You want to know why so many people can't speak their truth, even in therapy? Because they learned at home that certain truths are not safe to say out loud. And real quick, before we go further, if this video is making you feel something you haven't felt in a while, that feeling that somebody finally just said it, do me a favor, like it, comment, subscribe. Tell me in the comments what is the one thing your family never said out loud, but shaped everything. Because I have a feeling the comments on this video are going to be some of the most honest words on the internet today. I will be reading them. Now back to it. So what do you do when the people who were supposed to protect you were also the ones who taught you how to be afraid? The first thing is just this. You name it. You stop calling dysfunction love. You stop calling silence loyalty. You stop calling staying in a harmful family dynamic gratitude. You name what happened, even if only to yourself, even if you never say it to another living person. You name it, because unnamed things have enormous power. The moment you put language on something, it stops being the weather and starts being something you can actually deal with. The second thing is harder. You grieve the family you deserved but didn't get, because the pain is not just about what happened, it's about what was supposed to happen that didn't. You were supposed to be safe there. You were supposed to be seen there. And when that doesn't happen, there's a grief that can follow you for decades if you don't eventually sit down and feel it properly. And the third thing, and I say this with everything in me, you stop waiting for the apology. It's probably not coming. The people who did the damage may not even see it as damage. They may believe completely genuinely that they did their best. Maybe they did. Maybe their best was just catastrophically inadequate. Both things can be true. Their love can be real, and their impact can still have been destructive. You do not need them to understand what they did in order for you to put it down. You put it down for yourself, not for them, for you. Now, I said this is part one, and part one is about family, the people who were there before you had a choice, the ones built into the story before you understood what a story was. But part two? Part two is about the ones you chose, the friends, the lovers, the people you let in voluntarily with your eyes open because you decided to trust them, and some of them used it in ways you are still recovering from. Part two is coming, and when it does, I need you to be ready. In the meantime, I want to hear from you. Drop something in the comments. Tell me what part one brought up for you. Tell me what your family never said out loud. I read everything. This is Diary After 50, where we say the real things, always.